All right, let's jump in a time machine and head back to 1958 to unpack a book with maybe the boldest title you could ever come up with, God Exists. Now, this isn't just a book about faith. Oh no. It's a manual that claims it can prove God's existence using logic, reason, and get this, some really wild personal stories. So let's dig in and see how it all comes together.
So right out of the gate, the book just dives into this massive question, one that philosophers and scientists have been wrestling with forever, right? Can you actually prove God exists with cold, hard logic and evidence? And the author, he doesn't just think so. He is absolutely certain the answer is a big, resounding yes.
So who's the person making this huge claim? His name is Sri Swami Sivananda. And he wasn't just preaching to the choir here. His whole goal, in his own words, was to build a case so strong, so full of interesting illustrations and illuminating logic, that it could convince even a confirmed atheist.
Okay, but first things first. You can't really prove something exists if you don't even know what you're looking for, right? So before getting into any of the proofs, the book has to lay the groundwork. It has to define God. And let me tell you, this definition, it's probably not what you're thinking.
The key idea here is a Sanskrit word, Satchinanda, and this is like the bedrock for the entire argument. It's made of three parts. You've got Sat, which means pure existence, then Chit, which is pure knowledge or consciousness, and finally Ananda, which is pure bliss. So we're not talking about some old man with a beard in the clouds. No, according to this book, God is the actual fabric of reality itself.
Now that's a pretty big abstract idea, right? So to make it easier to grasp, the book gets really poetic. The argument is that God isn't some separate thing looking down on the world. God is the essence of the world. It's that invisible quality that makes things what they are, like the fragrance in jasmine.
Or think of it this way. It's the power behind the power. It's the strength in a wrestler.
And that feeling you get, the one that gives you chills, it's the thrilling melody in music. So you see the point here? God isn't something you have to go find. According to this definition, God is the very stuff of reality that we're all swimming in right now.
All right, so we have our definition. God is the fabric of reality. With that locked in, the book starts to build its case. And the first set of arguments, they're all about pure logic. This section is for the rational thinkers.
This one's a classic. You might have heard it before. It's the causeless cause argument. Think of it like a line of dominoes. Each one falls because the one before it fell. But what knocked over the very first domino? You can't just have an infinite line of dominoes going backwards forever. Eventually, you have to get to something that started the whole chain reaction without being pushed itself. That first uncaused cause, well, the book says that's God.
The book is also pretty smart about anticipating the obvious questions. It actually has this little dialogue between an atheist and a theist. The atheist says, hey, how can I believe in something I can't even see? And the comeback is pretty elegant. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there. You don't see the stars during the daytime, do you? But you know they exist?
And the arguments from reason just keep on coming. There are a ton of them, but here are a few more big ones. First, the I principle. That feeling you have right now that I exist, the book says that's proof of the self, of God. Then there's the idea of the unchanging witness. Think about it. You know you've changed from a baby to who you are now, but what is it that's watching that change happen? There must be some unchanging part of you observing it all. And finally, a big one. Just look at the order of the universe. The planets, the seasons, they all run like clockwork. Doesn't that suggest there's an intelligent director behind the scenes?
But, the book says that logic can only take you so far. It's not the whole picture. So the next section switches gears completely. We're moving away from the head and into the heart. We're talking about personal stories, these incredible experiences that, well, they just don't seem to have a rational explanation.
For example, get this story. There was this lawyer, a total committed atheist. He has a near-death experience, and he claims that he was literally taken by the messengers of Yama, the Hindu god of death. But then there's a mix-up. They realize they grabbed the wrong guy and sent him back. Can you imagine? The book says this astonishing experience just completely flipped his world upside down and turned him into a man of deep faith.
And here's another one, the story of a soldier. He's on duty, but he's so devout that he just ditches his post to go join a religious chanting party. He's gone for hours, comes back at dawn, and he's totally bracing himself for some serious punishment. But then his commanding officer sees him and says,
What are you talking about? I saw you on duty all night. The book's explanation? That the Lord himself actually took on the soldier's form to cover for him. These are the kinds of stories used as direct proof of miracles.
And then there's an argument that hits a little closer to home for all of us, your conscience. Ever wonder why you feel that little pang of guilt or that knot of fear when you do something you know is wrong, even if nobody else on earth knows about it? The book's answer is that feeling, that's the divine witness inside you. It's proof that God is always watching our thoughts.
So after all of that, all the logic, all the miracles, the book gets to the bottom line. It asks the most practical question you can ask. Okay, fine. Let's say you've convinced me God exists. So what? What do I actually do with that information?
And this right here is where everything changes. The whole argument pivots from just thinking about things to actually doing things. The author is really clear. Belief isn't just something you have in your head. It demands action.
So, what's the action? Well, it ties right back to that definition of God we started with. If God is existence, knowledge, and bliss, and if that same divine spark is inside everybody, then the only logical thing to do is to treat everyone like they have that divinity inside them. And that leads to a pretty straightforward to-do list. Serve other people, tell the truth, love everyone, and be kind to all.
And you can actually see this whole philosophy boiled down perfectly in the emblem for the organization that Swami Sivananda founded, which is called the Divine Life Society. The motto just spells it all out in 6 words, 6 verbs that are basically a roadmap for a spiritual life. Serve, love, give, purify, meditate, and realize.
So, at the very end, after all the arguments and all the stories, the book leaves you with this one final, really powerful statement. It's just a declaration of total certainty that basically says, here's the case, now the ball's in your court. You know, it's a really fascinating argument from way back in 1958, but it still makes you wonder, doesn't it? What really counts as proof? And in the end, what do we choose to believe?